What's going on, everyone? Nick Swizik here at Patriot Pacific. I have a special guest here, Tyler Galleher, good friend of mine, realtor here in Southern California at Signature Real Estate Group. Tyler here served in the Marine Corps. He's bought multiple houses using his VA loan. And we wanted to talk about, his journey in real estate and how he's utilized his VA loan to build wealth for his family. So good to have you here, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I was just telling him the story of kind of how I got into utilizing my VA loan and utilizing that as a tool to build some wealth for my family. Would I say we're wealthy by any means? Absolutely not. But it's definitely, I've learned through the last 3 homes that I've bought so much. And I've learned, and it's totally just redirected the course of our life and how I plan for retirement and things like that. So I just wanted to jump in on kind of how I first learned about the VA loan, and that led me to getting my real estate license and, like I said, buying multiple homes since then. So I was in formation one day next to a fellow sergeant, and that guy, I said, "How's it going, man?" And he goes, "Oh, good, man. I just sold my house last night for, profited $60,000 in 6 months, and that was back in 2014. And I said, "What?" I was like, dude, he's like 24 years old. There's no way you just got $60,000 from, in 6 months' time. And sure enough, I did a little research, reached out to my brother-in-law, who was a realtor in San Diego. He's used multiple VA loans. And I said, dude, is it really that easy? And sure enough, 30 days later, he hooked me up with a lender. I got pre-approved, and we bought a house shortly after that. You know what I'm saying? So all of a sudden, me and my wife, we were renting in San Clemente for $1,900 a month. And then now we own a home for, I think it was $1,500 a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is incredible. And, so obviously, you served, and I'm assuming you have a lot of people that that were in the service but haven't utilized their VA loan or don't even know how,
Exactly.
So, how easy was it for you? I guess you could say.
I think that was the most eye-opening thing is the ease. Like, I thought buying a house is like, dude, this is going to be impossible. This is a real note to take about my process is we didn't have $1,000 to our name when we bought a house. I borrowed $1,000 for my earnest money deposit. And we acquired an asset that, for $220,000, I think we bought our first house for in Menifee. And I sold that 2 years later, and we got to profit $69,000. And we didn't have any money into the deal, that kind of thing. So talk about return on investment. That was a little insane. And that's when I was like, oh, wow, this is real. And it's that easy. It was just mind-bogglingly easy.
That's absolutely insane. And, a lot of people just don't even know where to start. You know what I mean? And I think that the more knowledgeable people become about, all the benefits of using a VA loan and realistically getting the more of an investor mindset rather than just think of it as I'm going to live here forever. Because realistically, people aren't going to live in their house for, God knows, 30 years. People are going to want to profit. You look at appreciation and how much you're really gaining after putting zero money down, with an artificially lower interest rate relative to everything else. Like, dude, you're golden at that point,
So that's something I acquired over the last 6-7 years that I've been a homeowner, was, we don't need to buy our forever home right now. We don't need to, really know what we're looking for. Just get into the market with your VA loan because it's that easy. It's zero money out of pocket. Nowadays you might have to fork out a little bit, but also nowadays a lot of guys have more money than we had back in the day. So they're a little bit smarter and educated on, what to do with their paycheck.
Yeah.
So, if you got $5,000 to $10,000 saved up and let's say you're married, you're collecting BAH, you're renting on base in military housing, or you're renting an apartment or something, you should be buying a house no matter what the market's doing right now because that gets your foot in the door. And then that's what I'm trying to educate on is the investor mindset. Is our first house we bought, we didn't know what we were doing. We just bought a house because we realized we could. And we were like, all right, cool. But then seeing how we were able to profit off of that and then go buy another house that easily, that quickly within 30 days. And then we profited $90,000 off of our second house. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm trying to educate is like that second house we bought, we just bought it strictly as a strategic in Menifee. Menifee's blowing up. We wanted to keep our money there in Menifee and let it grow.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that worked. And then So our third house we bought was more of a strategic play as well, and that was more of kind of a live-in flip. So we're actually in that house now. We've been there for about a year. In that crazy market we were just in, you know, in the last couple of years, I put in probably 30 offers for myself and got denied 29 times. But the last one, you know, we just kept trying and we knew what we were looking for. Something a little bit run down, something that, you know, just needs floors, paint, things like that. And you know, it just takes time and effort and consistency. And we were able to get into a house below market value. The guy loved the fact that we were veterans and looking for a house. And so now the plan is we invested $30,000 into that house. We put new floors in, updated the pool, a little bit of paint and some yard work and whatnot. But now we're just going to live in it for at least 2 years. And the plan is to free up my VA loan by either converting that into a conventional loan or taking advantage of 2 VA loans at one time, which that's stuff I'll need to get educated on too when that time comes. But man, that's the plan is now we're going to have I just told my 6-year-old son the other day that you're going to own this house one day, son. You know, and that felt really cool to say that, you know, I have 4 little boys and that I'm trying to, you know, that's my goal by the time I'm 50 is, you know, they're each going to have a rental in their name. And that's going to be, you know, my retirement for them. And, you know.
Yeah. You know, I think, you know, for home buyers all around, I think the biggest hump that people need to get over is, you know, understanding that this is an investment, obviously. You know, that's what I like touching base on that. And here's why is because, you know, when people think of investment, the first thing that comes to your mind is the stock market, right?
Totally.
And it's visual. So people are more inept to, you know, throw $1,000 into Robinhood, for example, and then just watch it, you know, fall or watch it rise. And they don't realize that when you buy a house, it's essentially an investment that has a long-standing, you know, just track record of going up.
Yes.
But they can't see it, you know, because it's all estimated value at that point based on appraisal or, you know, whatever someone's going to buy it for. So when you get in that investor mindset, though, and you get it's like a win-win situation because not only do you get to live in the house, you get to raise a family there, but you're also going to make money on it, you know? So that's what, you know, is the hardest thing to get, you know, through people's heads. But, you know, it's not ignorance to an extent of like, you know, people are just don't want to understand it. People are sort of being taught the right way. You know what I mean? People need to be told the truth. And I think the VA is the best way to get into a house just because, well, obviously if you served, because, you know, it doesn't require a down payment. Your rates are killer, dude. I mean, the rates are so much better than everything else. And then just, you know, all of the benefits. And, you know, there's a lot of myths out there too. You know, one myth is you can't have 2 VA loans out at one time. Yes, you can. It's all detriment on your entitlement. That's one thing. Another one is, you know, VA appraisers are, they're just, they're shiest balls. No, they're not. You know, they want to see the veteran get into a good house. They're not going to put you into a shit show house, obviously. But
I've actually, on that point with the appraisers, is I've actually used that to our benefit, you know. So this last house I bought, I mean, I made an offer at $515,000 when he was asking $525,000. And the appraisal came in at $495,000. And so that was able, you know, this guy it's been sitting on the market for 20, 30 days. He did not want to go through another escrow. So he actually came down to $500,000.
Really?
Because the VA loan won't go above appraised value. So it's kind of a negotiation tool for me. It's like, sorry, man, I'd love to, but we don't have $20,000 extra dollars to come up. So if you want to sell this house, we'll come up 5, you come down 10, you know, and we met in the middle and got the house for $500K. So that was, you know, it's a negotiation tool too, that VA appraisal.
Oh, for sure. It really is. So that's going to benefit the VA buyer, you know, greatly. But even like talking to listing agents, you know, a lot of listing agents are like, oh, VA appraisers, they're going to require so many repairs. And like, dude, if there's repairs that need to be done on the house, realistically, they're all appraisers, you know, we're all human. They're not some, you know,
and if that's a myth, I've heard of that once. You know, I've heard of many buddies that have bought a house with a VA loan. I've bought in 3 homes with a VA loan. It's never come down to, you know, things that need to be repaired.
Exactly.
I've heard of that once. And the house was an investment property. It was run down.
So I'm happy we could put that to rest because it's like the stigma in people's mind. And realistically, it's hurting a lot of, you know, veterans' chances of getting a house because listing agents have this bad taste in their mouth based off what they've heard. I guarantee they haven't even experienced it. I guarantee it. You know, it's a stigma at that point. And
so another, you know, when we're talking about timing of the market, so 2 years ago, the last 2 years when the market was just blowing up, and it was really hard for a VA loan to get an offer accepted because we weren't coming crazy over asking, and a lot of us veterans didn't have that type of money. But now we're seeing a lot of VA offers get accepted because we know that they're not relying on all these other contingencies and down payments, and it's a government-backed loan. You know what I'm saying? So they're pretty. I've never really heard of one having too many issues when they get into escrow. Once the offer is accepted, it's a pretty smooth sailing process from there to close of escrow. So
and another thing too is, you know, obviously the market's slowed down, and that's just due to rising interest rates, and inventory hasn't shot up too much, realistically.
No,
inventory is still moderately low, I guess you can say. It's growing slightly, but, you know, for VA, it's the perfect time to get into house one. Not just because their rates are lower than everyone else, but you can also utilize the 2-1 buy down with the VA loan.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of, I've been asked by agents, they're saying, like, is this only a conventional product? I'm like, no, you can do it on VA too, man.
Yeah. And that's like literally if, our plan is within about a year from now to buy another house. Yeah. And if the rates are still where they're at, that's something I have no fear of using. You know what I'm saying? It just makes sense. And I've also, in the 3 homes I've bought and having all the loans, I've done an IRRL, interest rate reduction loan, through the VA. Probably 7 times. So we got into our first house at $220,000 with a 5.75% interest rate. Came out to about a $1,500 to $1,700 payment. It was somewhere in there. But by the time we sold that house, I did 3 refis and got my rate all the way down to like a 3.2 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then got into our second house. I probably did 2 refis on that house because you just kind of ride the market, ride the interest rates on the way down. I get to cash out a little bit of money when we redo that loan, and I just save $300 a month on my payment. So whatever house I buy next, I don't really care where the rates are at because I don't have a crystal ball or anything, but I do know that the rates will come down. You know what I'm saying? And that's my opinion. That's not, like nobody says that with confidence these days, but I confidently, me and making decisions for me and my family know that they're going to come down. So if we have to get in paying a little bit more up front, I don't mind because I know they're going to come down, and I'm just going to use that VA, IRRL, and oh my gosh, that is an even easier process than buying a home. No income verification, like literally just sign here, here's a couple docs, wait a couple, weeks, and then I got a new loan in place. We didn't lose any equity or anything because I'd only been, paid on the house for 6 to 7 months anyway. Yeah. So it's not like we're losing anything. We get to save a couple months payments, and get a little cash in our pocket, and then we get to save $300 a month on our loan. So
in a nutshell, touching on that, how simple was it to do in IRRL for you?
Ridiculously simple. Again, and those are things, the first one I did, and I was talking to my lender buddy, and I was like, man, where's the catch? Because this is literally too good to be true. You're saying that I get to just refinance my loan. I get to defer 2 months payments. So that's $5,000 in my pocket, just from not having to pay my mortgage for 2 months while we're doing this refinance. And then also there's some escrow, refunds and stuff like that or insurance that I hadn't paid yet, but so they give that back to me. So every IRRL I did, I literally walked away with probably $7,000 to $10,000 in cash and got to save $300 a month on my payment. And I'm like, okay, so that's a win and a win and a win for me. Yeah. Where's the catch? There's really no catch. Other than restarting your loan, instead of 29 years left to pay on my loan, I now just brought it back to 30 years that I have to pay on my loan. Who cares? Because I wasn't planning on staying in the home for 30 years anyway. I plan on using it as a tool, like I've said.
Exactly. And going back to the investment side, I think a lot of people, when they have this idea in their mind of becoming a real estate investor, they're thinking, oh, I want 20 rental properties. Like it's going to benefit them, greatly through cash flow. And realistically, cash flow can be $50 a month in some cases.
That's a good investment.
It really is. Yeah. Anything that's in the green. Yeah. I used to be in stock, so it's in the green. Yeah. That's what I'd say. But in all reality, just, using your VA loan and going house after house after house, look at how much you're profiting just based off buying and selling, upgrading versus just consistent cash flow. When you look at it from a metric standpoint of, by the numbers, for example, like just over the course of 3 years, let's say your house appreciates $50,000. You sell it, obviously realtor fees, escrow fees, title fees, etc. and let's say you pocket out of that, let's say 20 grand before you go into your next house. Look at the rental income you get over that same 3 years. I mean,
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And that takes me to that point that I really wanted to make, was these guys that are living in base housing or renting an apartment out in town. So as the veteran community, we know, like, BAH, which is your housing allowance. Okay. So I think a sergeant's BAH is around $3,300. Correct me. I'm sure I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, but okay. So if you're living on base, they take all of that from you, right? So you don't get to see any of that money. But if you go out in town and buy a home, even with a higher interest rate, get into something that's affordable, that's less than that $3,300 a month. So 28. Yeah. So right now you're immediately you just moved your family into another place and turned nothing into $400 extra a month, right? So that's like cash flow one, just by using your VA loan.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like a forced savings account. So if you're renting on base, or you're renting in giving your money to a landlord, you're not seeing any of that money back. But I know, just paying your mortgage every single month for a year, you're probably saving, you just bought your equity by $10,000 or something, right?
Yeah.
So if you paid on your house for a year, all of that $2,500 of your mortgage payment isn't going to the principal of the home, but some of it is, a portion of it is. You know what I'm saying? So that's money that you now have appreciated your house, or that's money that you're going to have back when you sell the home. So it's like, no matter, you're making money multiple different ways just by using your VA loan.
Yeah.
And instead of giving it away to somebody else. So
exactly. And
it's
and like just looking at it, obviously we're what, like an hour away from a base down here in Camp Pendleton. Yeah. And obviously there's a ton of people serving the country over there. Why do you think a lot of those people aren't informed about this? Like why you look at it and just a small percentage of veterans are
I think it comes down to fear, right?
Yeah,
fear and the unknown. Like they either just don't know about it, and that goes back to I didn't know about it until I was standing in formation, and the guy next to me happened to have just sold a house and used his VA loan. I wouldn't know about it. Who knows if I would own a house by now without that one guy telling me how easy it was, how much money he made, things like that. So that took away my unknown factor, but then the fear factor of, this is real scary. We're buying a house. Like, what if something happens? And then you just got to get over that fear. Once I did it once, I was like, oh, this is, there's nothing to be scared of. Like, get out there and use it.
Yeah, you build momentum at that point, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, man, like, this isn't that bad, right?
Yeah. And so, the first house we bought, it was a little 2-bedroom house. And then we had one kid at the time, or like while we were living there, we had a kid. We realized, wow, we need a little bit more space. And then so we kind of rushed into the next house. So we were like, all right, let's sell it. And then so we sold the house, amazingly like profited and like blew our minds. We're 26 years old and somebody just put $69,000 into our bank account tax free. And I was like, whoa, like we're young, dumb kids at this point. And so we just ran into the next house, and it was a brand new build in 2018 and here in Menifee again. And we threw $25,000 into the backyard. We bought $15,000 worth of new furniture. This isn't like what I'm recommending to do. This is just learn from my mistakes.
Yeah.
So this is furniture now that we still have today that we hate. Like, we didn't like any of it. You know what I'm saying? But that $25,000 that I threw into that house in the backyard and things like that, that just helped me. That was like I was flipping a house at the time, and I didn't even know it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we just created so much value into that house. I put a putting green into the backyard, nice patio cover, all kinds of stuff. And then 2 years later, living in that house for 2 years, I realized this isn't what I want. This isn't what I wanted this isn't the house that I want to raise my kids in. But it's real simple. It's like, that didn't like get me down. That was like, oh, okay. And then also the reason why I sold that house is I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That made me realize I'm doing exactly what he explains we should not do. And I was like, oh yeah, they sell a house, they pay off their debt, and then they go upgrade their house, things like that. But that's when I realized, oh, this isn't a great investment for us. Because, I mean, the taxes and Melrose on that place in a brand new community was like $1,200 a month, just disappearing. It's not going to my principal. It's not going back to me. It's not going to, it was just. So then we got it, we sold that house, profited, I think, $98,000 98. Yeah, that's right. $98,000 into our bank account. Again, tax free because we lived in the house for 2 years. And so then we got to rent for a year. And so it was a strategic move. And I know I'm telling people not to rent right now, but it was a strategic move is to rent so we can try to find that house that we want to raise our kids in.
Yeah.
But then it was just the timing was pretty bad. So we couldn't get an offer accepted on the house that we wanted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But even just to put it in perspective too, when I said we didn't have $1,000 to our name when we bought our first house, I think it was my sergeant income, in the Marine Corps, and my wife was like a waitress at the time. But now she's a teacher. She makes a lot more money, has a good salary. And then I've got, sources of income that make our income up, but our debt's still a little bit high right now, so when we're looking for our next house, which is going to be our dream home, which is going to be the house we raise our kids in, we are now doing the hard work to pay down all of our debt, maximize our income. I mean, I'm delivering pizzas at night just to have a W-2 income to prove just to buy our next house. And so we're going to do it smart this time, but I'm going to have my first rental now, which I'm super stoked about, which is we're going to turn this house into a rental and then use our VA loan to buy our dream home. Yeah. So it's like it took 3 homes for us to get to that point, but that's what I'm saying is possible out there. It's like don't stop throwing your money away to the rent or to the housing on base. Start using it and use it for your family. And
I mean, when you really think about it, it kind of clicked for me because you mentioned just 2 previous profits. One of them was $66,000.
Yeah, 60s. Yeah.
Another one $98,000. Yeah. You put 0 down on the house. So. On the $98,000 house, how long did you live that?
2 years.
Okay, so you lived there 2 years. I mean, that's what? I mean, $49,000 per year?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tax-free.
Yeah, exactly.
Just for living somewhere.
It's like, so let's say you make $80,000 a year, but you just bought a house, you can add that $49,000 per year, you just... Yeah, if you spread it out like that, it's a huge deal.
Yeah, so think of it like this. I mean, this would be a good talking point, but turn $0 or 0 down, got a house. I mean, I don't know if you got closing costs covered or not, but regardless, let's just say closing costs were $8,000. Okay, turn $8,000 into $98,000.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just...
In 2 years, you know what I'm saying?
It's nutty.
And people might make the argument like, oh, you can't do that again today because the housing prices are so high and the interest, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, there's no bad investment in real estate with time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, buy today at $550,000, which even might be, let's say the market is probably saying it's $575 right now, but you could probably get it a little bit under asking, pay it down for 2 or 3 years. So you're making money that way, but then also it's going to appreciate still, you know what I'm saying? Like the market's likely, and even if I don't think it's going to crash, but let's say we see a 10% correction, but you stayed in it for 5 to 10 years. That's now...
You're still making money.
Yeah. You've still, like I said, that forced savings account that you have is that, your mortgage has been paid down over the last 10 years, but also, that's enough time for the correction to be corrected, and we're going to be on our way back up at some point.
Exactly. It's funny when people have a hint or a taste in their mouth that they think the market's going to crash, they all of a sudden make them investors, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, right.
They're like, oh man, you got to buy the dip. It's like, no, it's not Dogecoin here. Right?
The strategy that I'd really like people to understand is like, if you don't mind staying in the house for 5 years to 8 years, just the amount of money that you've paid down on the principal of the house by paying your mortgage on time every month, that's enough to probably create enough equity in the house to do a quick refinance into a conventional loan, free up your VA loan again, and go buy another house. So it's like just by using your VA loan once, you now, just by living your life normal, going to work every day for the next 5 years, you're creating wealth for your family by, paying that house down and turning it into a rental. That's the strategy I missed on the first 2 houses. I wish I had.
And I see that's the common trait that I see with a lot of buyers, whether it's VA or just normal civilians, is they're trying to time the market. And I always touch base on this with other videos, like well, everyone else has the same thought process in their mind. Oh, we're going to wait till rates go down. We're going to wait till everything crashes. Well, all right, you're going to be in competition with all those other people that think the same way as you. Yeah. And market crashes, your financed offer, your minimum down finance offer is going to stand no chance against these big investors like BlackRock, or these investors that are like hoarding their money away in a mattress, waiting to pay cash on everything to turn this into a rental market again.
Yeah.
So I mean, You know,
it's so funny because like people said I was almost, you know, like you're really buying a house right now in December of what was it, 2021, which like everything was still crazy at that point. And I'm like, or really high, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even since I bought in December to now, my house has gone up $90,000. You know, we put 30 grand into it. So I'm still in the green by what, $50,000-$60,000.
Yeah.
And the market's on its way down, but I'm still in the green. You know what I'm saying? It didn't go all the way down to 520, which is probably where it will go. You know, that would be my prediction.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still, you know, and now I've paid down for a year or two and I only owe 480 on the loan. The house is still worth 520.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a good investment. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
With time. So that's just the fear of people not getting in the market and stuff. It's like, people said I was at a bad time and it happened to be a good time. So who really knows? Stop. Stop trying to predict the timing and just get in. And then
there's no good time.
And there's never a bad investment if you just wait enough time. You know what I'm saying? So time shouldn't be an argument.
There's no good or bad time. You know, I mean, that's really what it is, because there's ways to make money in every single market that we're in.
Absolutely.
And that's what people don't realize is, you know, you're never going to catch it on the upswing every single time because other people are going to be in the same way, in the same boat. You know, that's why I always say time in the market's a lot better than time in the market. Yeah. You know, because if we're all, you know, no one's going to get it right every time.
That. Time in is better than time in.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, you're in real estate and you think of it, you know, last year, for example, people weren't going to sell their house because they were riding the wave, you know?
Yeah.
Well, those same people are trying to sell their house now and they're pissed off because their house has been on the market for God knows how long. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, I mean,
that's actually, I love where it's at right now. And that's why I wish, you know, I had a couple more veteran buyers under my belt that we could just start throwing in offers on all these houses. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of these people have their house on the market 60, 70, 90 days and they want to sell it. Some of them have plans. They had, you know, they may have an offer in on another house already and they're just waiting for their house to sell. They're willing to take a lower offer, you know? It's like, so get pre-qualified with your loan. I mean, sure, with whatever interest rates are today for your VA loan, it's just bite that bullet for a little bit, but let's still try to get you a great deal on a house. You know what I'm saying? Like let's I don't mind writing 30 offers for somebody to hope that, you know, we get the deal that's out there. And I know the deals are out there still.
And it won't even take 30 offers. That's the crazy thing.
Oh yeah. Right now, no.
Because
it took me 30 offers, but
yeah, I mean right now, back then, last year it was crazy, but like right now, I mean, you got sellers giving arms and legs and family dogs.
Yeah.
If you take the house, you know, giving closing costs away. I mean, that's another thing I've been, you know, just noticing is, you know, a lot of VA buyers are getting into houses with paying like nothing.
Seriously. Right now, like when I've said we need, you know, like earnest money deposit, sure, borrow some money from somebody to throw some money up just to show that you're serious. But you could literally get into a house right now. Yeah, your mortgage payment per month right now with the interest rates being high, it'll be a little bit more expensive. But you got to buy a house with zero money out of pocket. Like, they will cover your closing costs right now, and they will buy your rate down. They will come down under asking price. So you can walk into a house in today's market with $20,000 in equity with zero money out of pocket.
Yeah, it's definitely a buyer's market. Nuts. It's a buyer's market right now. And people have that twisted too. They're like, well, a seller's market is when they can make a ton of money. They're in control. So that's really, it's a control thing. When it's a buyer's market, buyers are in control. Mm-hmm. Not when there's an influx of buyers. When there's an influx of buyers, opposite. Yeah. You know, that's just a misconception that people have in their mind. But, I mean, acquiring the asset is really the biggest thing because the rate's ever changing, you know what I mean? But the asset's not. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's just...
And that's why I hated renting because I got right back into the market as soon as I could because I feel like I'm in a little bit of control at that point. Like we talked about the control. It's like now in the next 3 to 5 years, I have something to utilize to help me get ahead. You know what I'm saying? But if we rented for the last 3 years waiting for something to change, I'm now subject to whatever the market's ready to give me. But now I have something that I can use as a tool to get me to my next step. Yeah. Which is hence if I have to sell that house to get into our house, then I have that option. Or I can rent that house and make income off that house to help me qualify for the next house. Yeah. So I have something that I can use. That's all it is. It's a tool that we need to be using as veterans and because it's there. It's just it's insane.
The VA loan, all the benefits, it's like a Swiss Army knife, dude.
Yeah.
To build wealth. That's how I view it. I mean, just throw little ninja stars, man, and there's so many different ways. It's absolutely it's unbelievable, dude. I mean, and I didn't realize it until I got into this industry. I'm like, God, man, like
Yeah.
Crazy.
And that's, after reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, buying a couple homes, that's when I decided to get my own real estate license as well. Because now, I get to buy my own house. So literally, if I go buy a house for myself, I can apply the commission. Let's say it's a $500,000 house at 2%. That's $10,000 that I can either apply towards the principal of my house, which I don't, that's going to fluctuate my mortgage payment by X amount. Or I can walk into the house. I got my family into a new house, and then they're going to pay me $10,000. Let's say they cover my closing costs too, and they're going to pay me $10,000 to buy this house. So that's just that's a strategy too.
Yeah,
that's how I'm using it.
And other people too, I talked to a few vets at my old shop where I was at, where people were not really familiar with the requirements needed to get a VA loan. Some people think their credit's too low. Well, in 2022 right now, we have so many different programs to get you in at a lower credit score. Obviously, in my opinion, I think you'd always want to work on the credit first. I never want to. I don't want to get people in with the bare minimum of everything because they're going to be paying the price through their payment. So just wanted a full disclaimer that.
Yeah. And that's actually a good point, because when we got into that first house, we were young and dumb. We didn't have $1,000 to our name. Our credit our credit obviously just kind of ties in with that story. It's like, it wasn't great. So we still got into a house. But every refi after that, our credit got better too. So it's like lower interest rate. So, but I totally agree with you. And I'm not above that. I went, we had a dedicated credit repair come to our office, give us some education that we could give to our clients. But I took that education and said, I want help. You know what I'm saying? I don't even have bad credit. I just want really good credit. So I was like, they're the coach and the people to help me get that and do what I need to do. So not only did they do their work on the back end for the credit repair and get some stuff knocked off that shouldn't have been there anyway, they also coached me along the way to like, hey, do this. This really helps you boost your credit. Or have you thought about doing some of this? Pay this off first. Don't pay this all the way off because we want to keep that line open. Things like that I'm not even thinking about. So I paid for that, and I loved that.
Yeah. And, better credit's never hurt anybody, right? I mean, same with like more money's never hurt anybody, et cetera. Coming in with the minimum down for any loan is like, you can do it obviously, but, you're a higher risk to the bank. But, like for VA, for example, there's people that see online that, we need a 580 credit score. That's the bare minimum. But there's other ways too that, let's say that there's one thing affecting your credit, but you just want to get, you want to figure it out sooner. You don't want to wait to get a house. We have this outlet we use is called CalVet. So CalVet is essentially a manually underwritten VA loan to where there's no bank overlays. So bank overlays is when you run desktop underwriting and it essentially approves you or it doesn't approve you. So this outlet will essentially look at every aspect of the credit profile, just read their entire story to see why their credit is the way it's at, and essentially bend over backwards to make sure a loan gets approved. So I think it's another cool little just bit of knowledge that a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's always ways, man. There's always ways, and that's realistically what it is. When you look at just any kind of loan, I mean, some people need to work on stuff before they even think about getting a house. But in all reality, like most of the time it works out in the end. Yeah. It really does. You just have to have a good eye on it. You have to have good systems in place to, obviously have a full functioning company. And then, you have to give it obviously your effort, because that's really where things fall through the cracks is when you just forget about the loan. Yeah. So, I mean.
And those guys out there, wondering like, man, could it really be that easy? How do I find out? It's simple. It's like you just call one of us and then maybe in the next month or two we're not able to buy you a house, but we know how to coach you along the way to get you there in 6 to 12 months, and all of a sudden by next year this time you're a homeowner, so
and that year goes by fast. Goes by fast. I've had clients that it took me 8 months to get their credit fixed, and before you know it, I mean, it went by fast for me too. I'm like, oh my God, you guys are already buying a house. They're like, yeah, that went by so quick. And then their credit score jumped up 60 points. I'm like, what? Yeah. Crazy, dude.
You don't know until you find out, until you try it out. So
yeah, man. But it's just it's a great tool. I mean, in a nutshell, this is just a great tool to utilize wealth with, in all reality, very little money out of pocket. Yeah. you get a better rate than pretty much anyone else.
Yeah.
And,
Seriously.
when you take that into consideration, it should really, encourage people to at least research about it.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
how I see it. At least get a little interested in it. Because when you get interested about this, because all it took for you is probably just, reaching out to someone.
Yeah.
And your brother's in real estate. That helped
my
too.
brother-in-law, I've seen this guy buy 2 houses, 3 houses by the time he's 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Never even thought to myself, I could do the same thing. I probably just was thinking in that old mindset of growing up of like, it's going to be year, I'm going to be in my 40s or 50s before I get to buy a house,
Yeah.
And I bought 3 homes before I was 30. Just by, I was like, whoa, this is,
nutty.
and so like you said, it's a tool. It's, you need to be educated on it and not just the generic, like, this is what it can do. It's like, no, hear from a real life story of how to use this and what I've done. And you could do it too. Maybe a little bit different, but it's very possible.
It really is. It really is. Well, dude, I'm so happy you came on today, man, honestly. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have any questions regarding getting or obtaining a VA loan, we've got Tyler over here. We're going to have his number below. Contact me. I'm going to have my number below as well. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys.